When I think of a highly successful electric vehicle, it's pretty hard to beat the winning combination of the Tesla Model 3. When this nameplate first debuted about 7 years ago, it really set the benchmark high, and it proved to a lot of manufacturers that consumers would buy electric vehicles as long as it offered a winning combination of power, technology, and of course, range. Now, since then, we have seen a bunch of new competitors come into the space to try to steal away Tesla's thunder. So for 2024, the company is finally giving its best-selling vehicle a refresh. And as you can see, it's pretty extensive. You have new styling in the front and the rear, brand new wheel designs, and you also get some upgraded tech on the inside. So as you can see, this week we've managed to get our hands on the revised 2024 Model 3 Performance. And the big question I want to answer, if you guys are an enthusiast looking to smoke your buddy's BMW M3, has Tesla managed to craft the perfect weapon? Stay tuned to find out. So if you guys have been following the channel quite closely, you'll remember that I actually owned one of these things when the original Model 3 Performance came out back in 2017, 2018. It was my first experience with an EV, and it really made me realize why EVs are so good with a lot of consumers. So this car will always hold a special place in my heart. And I also want to give a big congrats to Rob from behind the camera, because this is his new car. It essentially replaced his Model Y Performance because his lease was up, and I think he actually picked out a really great spec. But let's go ahead and talk about what's going on underneath the hood here, because as you can see, just like the pre-refreshed version of the Model 3, you still have a nice sized frunk. In fact, Tesla says you have around 3 cubic feet of total storage space in here, which is a pretty usable amount. It's actually big considering how small the car is. There's a little bit of, I guess, like the tool there to actually take out the front tow hook for the vehicle. Surprised to see there's no like emergency release in here, although you technically couldn't be able to fit an actual person in here. But since we're underneath here, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs. Now, Tesla a couple of years ago upgraded the battery capacity. It used to be 75 kilowatts, now it's 82 kilowatt hours, so you get the bigger battery pack standard on the Performance, and they really upped the power of this model. Now, previously, Tesla never really liked to disclose how much horsepower their cars had. The old one, if you looked at certain specs, which was showing between 450 to 470 horsepower when they started to upgrade the car like in 2020. This, however, gets more power. Tesla is now saying you have 510 horsepower from dual electric motors, so you have one motor in the front, one motor in the rear, giving us all-wheel drive, and 546 pound-feet of torque. That number is around 60 more horsepower versus the pre-refresh version of the car. It's going to make it considerably quicker. It all goes out through a 1-speed reduction gear transmission, and Tesla says this model here with the 20-inch wheels should do around 303 miles of range. So not quite as good as the Performance when it first came out. I think that could do like 310, but we'll try out the range when we get this vehicle out on the road. We'll do a little real-world range test for it. In terms of 0 to 60 performance, Tesla says you can now do 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. That's a 0.2 second improvement, and it makes this car faster versus all of its rivals, including the new Hyundai Ioniq 5N. I'm hoping to be able to eventually get the two vehicles together to do a comparison test, so stay tuned for that. Being that this is the Performance, it has a top speed of around 163 miles an hour. So again, one of the quickest accelerating and fastest EVs you can buy, especially for the money. And the other great thing about the Model 3 is even though it's an electric vehicle with a skateboard architecture, it's actually among the lightest vehicles in the segment. As this car sits, it weighs in at just over 4,000 pounds. The Performance version is only around 20 to 30 pounds heavier versus a dual motor non-Performance version. So again, Tesla does a fantastic job here with the weight balance of this thing. We'll talk about the charging as we get to the rear of the vehicle, but let's go ahead and close up the hood there and show you guys the revised exterior styling. Now this, if you guys have been following Teslas, of course, they were calling this refresh internally as Project Highland. So we first saw the updated Model 3 in other markets about a year ago in September in 2023. They just started going on sale here in America, and production in their Fremont facility started basically at the beginning of this year. And you can see for the Performance version, I love what Tesla has done here. First of all, you have a new front fascia along with these new headlights. The headlights themselves remind me a lot of the headlights that you find on the Tesla Roadster. I'm wondering if we're ever going to see that vehicle. You can see all of them come with their full LED headlights. You have a new LED light signature here, an LED turn signal, LED low and high beams. And overall, you can see the front fascia has a little bit more of like an upright appearance to it. Tesla says they've been able to smooth out the aerodynamics, and now this has like a 0.23 coefficient of drag. And for the Performance trim, you also have a unique front splitter. You can see the openings here are a little bit larger. This also protrudes out a little bit more. This apparently adds more downforce. There's also a functional air inlet here that allows the air to kind of flow over the wheels for aerodynamic purposes. And Tesla also lowered the suspension of this car by about 1/2 inch. So you have around 5 inches of ground clearance. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the styling refresh. I didn't first love it when I saw the vehicle in pictures, but I have to say, in person, in the performance trim in this white, it looks good. The one thing I don't like, however, is Tesla did get rid of the fog lights for this revised version. I actually kind of like the fog lights on the pre-refresh, so I'm kind of sad to see them, go backwards in that regard. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see this is a heavy refresh. So in terms of the dimensions, this is still pretty much the same. You have a 113.2 inch long wheelbase. Its overall length is 185.9. It's actually 0.1 inches longer, and that's because of the extended front and rear bumpers. So not really any longer in terms of stretching the length of the car, just from the bumpers. The width hasn't changed. That's the one thing I wish Tesla did, is I wanted them to make this car wider. They could have done like a bulging fender here, or actually made the car wider a little bit to give it more of that aggressive stance. So that's something that I'm hoping the aftermarket will do at some point. The one thing I also really like, however, are these new wheels. Now, I didn't love these wheels when I first saw the pictures of the Model 3 Performance. These are their 20-inch warp wheels, which you can see have a directional 5-spoke design with these aerodynamic covers. These are also a forged wheel, so they're stronger, they're lighter. You have a 14-inch rotor at the front. These are their upgraded performance brakes that are standard, along with a red painted Tesla branded caliper. The rear rotors are just under 13 inches. And the cool thing about the Performance is it also gets an upgraded adaptive suspension. So this is the first time Tesla is doing an adaptive suspension on this car. It's going to really improve the ride and handling, which is great if you guys plan to use this as a daily driver. Like I mentioned earlier, the suspension itself is lowered by about 1/2 inch, so it really gives this car a really good stance. You can see the wheels, 20 inches, like I mentioned. You have a 235 by 35 R20. That's actually the same size tire as last year, but the rears now are fatter. It's a staggered wheel setup on a 275 by 30 R20 inch tire. So that's really what this car needed, especially if you guys plan to do some track days with the car. It gives it a much more aggressive stance and whatnot. So I'm really happy to see Tesla, adding that upgrade to it. I think it really needed it to kind of help the Performance stand out compared to other versions of the Model 3. Now you can see all the cameras around the vehicle have been upgraded to their latest software, so it now has an expanded view of whatever you're seeing or whatever the full self-driving capability is seeing. You can see the mirrors are power folding. I would have preferred to see them actually maybe gloss black painted, but they are power folding with integrated turn signals, of course. There's also blind spot monitoring and blind view cameras as well. That's a new feature, I believe, for 2024. And then you can see the glass roof here is going to be standard. This still doesn't vent air or open up to vent air. There's also no sunshade, but it is pretty dark tinted. But I did notice on these really hot days, it is definitely letting in a lot more sun than I would like. You can see this pillar here still looks pretty much the same. I also love the black accents here as opposed to the chrome of the earlier renditions of the Model 3. And then you can see, following me over to the rear, the new taillight design is interesting. I didn't love the taillight design at first. However, in the Performance trim with the carbon fiber rear spoiler, the Tesla spelled out at the back, you can see the taillights themselves have that kind of C shape, like LED design, where it's an LED turn signal, LED brake light design. And then the rear bumper has a much more aggressive rear diffuser that supposedly, again, adds more downforce, and it also kind of creates a longer overall length. And then you can see right here, this almost looks like the Plaid badge, but it's technically not. This is Tesla's new Performance badge. Tesla says if you want a Plaid branded vehicle, a performance vehicle, it has to have tri-motors, and it also needs to have a carbon sleeved motor as well. So that's not what this car has. So it's, again, going to get the new Performance badge. And over here, the charge port door hasn't changed. This still uses Tesla's NAC NACS port, which is actually what the rest of the industry is going to be adopting. And because it's a Tesla, it can basically accept up to 250 kilowatts of max DC fast charging on all their superchargers. Eventually, their superchargers will be opening up to every other manufacturer by 2025. This car can essentially add around 142 miles of range in just 15 minutes. So again, it's among the quickest charging EVs. Technically, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 are going to charge pretty similarly. And then, of course, there are other EVs that can charge even faster because they run on the 800-volt architecture. This still is running on the 400-volt. Now, opening up the trunk, you can see that power trunk lid is now standard equipment, which is great. Even if you go for the base version, you can see this is Rob's personal car, so excuse all the stuff that he's got in here. But the great thing about the Model 3 is, plus, with the cargo capacity, back here, you can see that's his Type R floor mats that he still carries around in his Tesla.
They're from my 2012 SI.
So the seats, they still fold down, which is nice. You also have this really deep storage area down here, which again, Rob has more junk underneath here, so I apologize for that. But Tesla says you have around 15 cubic feet of storage space. And then if you look underneath the floor there, it adds another 6 cubic feet. So when you add in the trunk space in here, plus the trunk space in the front, you have a maximum of 24 cubic feet, which is actually a huge amount given the size of this vehicle. The one thing I do wish that Tesla would have done, and Rob kind of agrees, is I wish that this car was actually a hatchback, because that's where the Model Y definitely gives you much more practicality. And this car honestly could have been a hatchback. It would have given you a lot more space if it was. So obviously, I really love the exterior changes that Tesla made to this car for 2024, especially on the performance trim. But what about the interior? Before we get inside and show you guys all the updates Tesla's made, let's go ahead and show you guys the key fob. Now, Tesla actually doesn't give you a physical key fob like they used to on like the Model S, for example. Instead, you just get this physical key card that you can basically put in your wallet like a credit card. Most owners, however, will just use your phone as a key, which I do have my phone set up to be used as a key. Thanks to my editor, Rob, giving me that access through the Tesla app. The Tesla app also has been very much improved, where you can basically ping the car, you can activate the climate control, you can set the charging, you can do so many other things with the app. It's one of the best apps in the industry, so I think that that's part of the reason why a lot of people really love Teslas. Now, as you can see, as I approach the vehicle's door handles, the door handles haven't changed. You still have to push this little section in. The mirrors can also be set to electrically fold, obviously. There's a camera here. For those of you who don't have your phone connected, you can basically just tap the key card here. That will unlock the door for you. You don't physically have to do that, however. Instead, you just come over here. If the mirrors are folded, just push that in. You can see it actually pops the door out, which I believe is a new feature for the refresh version. Before, it wouldn't actually pop the door out. You had to kind of grab it and then pull it at the same time. But overall, it's just a nice little small detail. And this particular one that I'm showing you, Rob did a great job with the color combination. It's the pearl white exterior plus the black and white premium vegan leather interior. And you can see the seats are the biggest change for the performance trim. We finally have sport bucket seats, which are adjustable in like 14 different ways. Love the more aggressive bolstering. I also love the performance badge there and the actual seat back. The head restraints, you can see, are fixed into position. These seats are heated and ventilated for the first time. In fact, every Model 3 Project Highland, the refresh models, come with ventilated seats, even if you go with the base version, along with the power seats with memory function, where you can set a profile in the actual center display. And you can see the performance also gives you the sport pedals down there, which don't really do anything but just make the interior look better. But overall, it makes a really great first impression. It just looks really clean and modern, and even smells really nice in here, although this is a very new car. Now you can see the door panels have some upgraded materials. First of all, there's actual leather on the upper portion here where it's nice and padded. There's this new LED light strip that starts at the door panels, wraps around the entire dash, and then goes to the passenger door panels. That is illuminated, obviously. Nice padded area over here. You can see the window controls. They have a nice high quality feel. They are essentially one touch for all four. This is where you pull up on this to basically open the door in case the power goes out. Most of the times you're gonna be pushing that because it's an electronic latch. Down here you can see it's nice and padded. I love how there's like a carpeted material in the actual door pocket. And then there's an upgraded 17 speaker Tesla premium audio system, which I feel like is probably, you know, subdivided or built by Bang & Olufsen. It gets 3 more speakers this year versus the pre-refreshed Model 3. But let's go ahead and hop into the interior, because as you can see, this vehicle has, or it's a low sports sedan, so you have around 5 inches of ground clearance, so it's basically like you're falling into the car. As I shut the door actually has a pretty solid sounding thunk, so that adds to the impression of quality, which I love. And you can see the steering wheel. This is the new steering wheel that is on the refreshed Model 3. You can see it now just spells out Tesla in the center, which I love. And the big controversy with this steering wheel is the fact that there's no more stalks for the turn signal or for the gear selector. Instead, Tesla has moved that into the screen and given us buttons here. So when you get in the car, you basically just put your foot on the brake. That turns the car on because it senses that your butt is physically in the seat as you shut the door, and the key or your phone is in here, which is all, you know, what you expect. You can see that activates the power steering. And then the horn for the vehicle, it sounds pretty nondescript, but in Tesla fashion, you can actually change the horn to make farting noises if you'd like. So again, that's something that I love that Tesla does, that really adds to that customization level. Now, if you want to adjust the steering wheel, you have to do so by going into the screen here. As you can see, you can adjust the mirrors and the steering wheel from here. So if I go into the steering wheel there, I can basically tap that and I can adjust the wheel to go in and out, or I can move the position of the wheel. That takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you set it, you don't really have to touch it again. Same thing for the mirror controls. This is where you access the mirror controls, where I can basically, you know, adjust the positioning of the mirror from here. So again, once you set that, you can basically save it and not have to touch it later, which is, you know, pretty nice. The buttons here for the turn signal stalks definitely take some getting used to. I found the easiest way to use them is basically rest your finger here where there's a little line and then just kind of push up to signal right, which you can see there's a new blind view camera, and then push down to signal left, which also brings up the camera. That's very much like what Hyundai does in their systems where you have the blind view camera system. It's very nice. There's also a new blind spot monitoring system. So that definitely is all new. It takes some getting used to. Your autopilot controls are now accessed via here. If you double tap that, you can, wiper controls are here. You can also use your voice commands there. That's your Sentry mode and then your cruise control on off button. I also love the flat bottom design. The leather also feels really good in your hands. This is also a heated steering wheel in case you're wondering. So all the latest tech that you could expect. Now in terms of the dash material, you can see Tesla also made some upgrades here. The same kind of really nice leather material is covering the entire part of the dash. I also love how low the dash is. The one thing I did notice, however, is the pillar here is still very large, which you can lose a vehicle in that actual pillar. There's this new carbon fiber trim here, genuine carbon fiber that spans across the entire dash. Tesla used to put either wood or that white trim in the pre-refresh models, but the performance now includes the carbon fiber. There's also still that dash vent, which is just a continuous like little line here. If you want to adjust the climate dash airflow, you have to use the screen here to adjust the airflow, which is pretty nice. There's also heated and ventilated seats, which I mentioned. You access the ventilated seats here. You can also activate an auto function. That's where you go between heat and cold. The cooled seat function works extremely well, so I really appreciate the fact that it's standard equipment even on all the base versions of the Model 3. You can see it has dual zone climate control, actually tri-zone climate control, because the rear has their own set of climate control functions as well. And you can see here, I love the native software because when you start scrolling around this, Tesla obviously is a software company and they've made some critical improvements here. This looks like something that Apple themselves would design. And I also love the fact that it's so quick and snappy and responsive. It's really bright. It's easy to see. It's front and center. Although I will say a 15.5-inch screen is starting to look a little small in today's day and age where we have some Lincoln vehicles that have like a 48-inch screen that spans pillar to pillar. But again, this is easy to use. I also love the fact that, it's pretty easy to learn. And then if you push that button here, you can see this is where it brings up all your usual apps. Now, of course, in traditional Tesla fashion, there's their toy box where you can basically tell the car to fart on demand. If I push that, I can basically set the whoopee cushion in a certain part of the seat to basically embarrass your passengers, which is cool. There's also like a light show here. There's a colorizer where you can change the color of the car. There's a romance mode here where it turns into a fireplace. There's a Mars where you can drive on Mars, Santa mode, and then Rainbow Road. So all those features didn't really change. Which is, pretty cool. You can see hitting the car icon. This is where you can access all your quick controls from opening the glove box, for example. You can see the glove box is new. It now is magnetized, and I have to say this new glove box is a lot smaller than the old Model 3. This is definitely where I think some owners are going to notice there's less storage space here. It's also now a magnet, so you can hear it. I don't love the way that sounds when it shuts, but again, it is a magnet. That's why it does so. You also have 2 wireless phone charging pads here. The center console area has been updated. You can see I like this carbon fiber look trim, which doesn't show fingerprints like it used to with the old car where it had a gloss piano black. You can see Rob added this little aftermarket bin that slides out that also slides. You can see there's deeper storage in there along with a 12-volt power outlet. You also have your cup holders here, which the cup holders are a pretty decent size, but I know Rob had mentioned he didn't love the little tabs inside here. They just didn't flex quite enough when you're trying to put like a bigger drink in here. And then you can see nice padded center console. Open that up, you can see there's also a little deeper storage in there where you can take that out, which is pretty nice. I think a lot of people are going to appreciate that. The camera's also got a huge upgrade. So if I tap that, you can see it brings up the full, around camera system. That's actually your dash cam there. If I tap that, you can see there's the full, 360 camera that the vehicle offers. They've included their next generation cameras. The graphics and resolutions have improved. It's expanded the field of view for autopilot as well. I think that's very important for people who are looking in this, segment in terms of technology. And then of course you can do things like activate your Tesla Theater where you can watch movies or you can pull up YouTube. You can pull up your favorite Redline reviews video as well. So you can also minimize that so you can still have the screen. Now I imagine this won't work when you're actually driving, but it's nice again that Tesla gives you that. There's also an energy meter here where you can see what the trip computer is showing, what your consumption is like. And unlike some other native software from GM, for example, Tesla does give you a couple things that you can't get in GM's newest system that's Android Automotive based, that's Google based. For example, here's Apple Music. I have Apple Music logged in right now where I can basically access my library and all the favorite songs that I really appreciate. There's also Apple Podcasts, there's Tidal, which is another streaming service, there's TuneIn. Basically, it gives you all of the features, even though this interface is lacking Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Your phone can integrate into this where it can read text messages aloud to you. You can also text via your voice, which is also very, very nice to use. And you also still get all the Apple software that I really appreciate that I use, that you don't get in an Android Automotive Google-based system. So I really appreciate Tesla's native system, and this is exactly the reason why you don't necessarily need Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in a Tesla system, because they give you all the software in here, and they're not limiting you because they didn't use Google. They're just using their native software where they have I guess they have a partnership with Tesla where they allow you to use their streaming service. And the best thing about it is if you want to pull it up, you just click on podcast, you scan the QR code, you log in from your smartphone, and it's basically there, and all your stuff is populated, and it's all really easy to use. I don't love the wiper controls because, again, they're in the screen. Tesla's automatic function is absolute garbage. It doesn't work very well. I've tried it several times, and I just found it to be more of an annoyance. Your phone stuff, you can see, is all mounted over here, which is all fantastic. And then you can see here the dash cam footage. This is where you can access the interior dash cam, the exterior dash cam, the Sentry mode. That's something that Tesla also pioneers. So I love the technology in this vehicle, and I have to admit that it just works extremely well. It's very reliable. It looks like it basically is designed by Apple themselves. I think that's going to be a huge, selling factor for people, and it's precisely the reason why so many people love the Tesla native software. In terms of visibility, you can still see out of the vehicle pretty well with the low dash, although this pillar, like I mentioned earlier, is big. The ambient light strip in this vehicle, I will say, while it does look nice right now in the daytime, at night, that light strip is actually linked to the screen brightness. So I actually found at night that I couldn't really see the light strip quite as much as I wanted to. I think Tesla should fix that and make it separate, the ambient lighting separate from the screen brightness display. I imagine they'll probably do that with a software change, so hopefully owners will tell Tesla about that. But the seats, like I mentioned earlier, beautiful sports seats. They are comfortable. I took this vehicle on a longer trip, and I found the seats to be really supportive, but my back did start to hurt after about an hour and a half of driving. So try the seats out for yourself. Make sure that you like that. But overall, Tesla really did a phenomenal job with the interior. The sound system also sounds fantastic. Love the frameless style rear view mirror, although Tesla doesn't offer a digital camera rear view mirror. And then above me here, you can see the big panoramic glass roof. Lets in tons of light. There is a little bar here that cuts in on the actual roof, vastness, but this doesn't open up to vent air. You can see it is very dark tinted on this hot day, however, where it's like 100 degrees outside. I am finding it's not quite dark enough. And then you can see also here with the sun visors, I also love the fact that this is a beautiful LED. It's also a magnet. So again, just small details here and there really make this interior feel a lot more premium and upscale. There's not a single squeak and rattle as well. I think Tesla's just done a great job with build quality, with materials, and of course with technology. Now moving to the back seat of the Model 3, this is where Tesla also made some changes here, which they didn't really necessarily need to do. You can see the beautiful white interior carries over back here, and these seats are 3-level heated, but not ventilated. You can see there's already holes in here for ventilation, but Tesla for some reason said that the rear passengers didn't need the ventilation. You can see the door panel has the same beautiful leather material that's soft touch on this upper portion. No ambient, or actually I'm sorry, the ambient light strip does carry over to the back here as well. Nice little detail, which I wasn't expecting. Love the white here, padded over here, as you can see. One touch for the rear for both, and you can see that button is what opens up the rear area. And then you can see here there's a nice fabric material or carpeted material in the actual door pocket. If the power goes out, however, to open up the rear door, you actually have to take off some of the door panels. So Tesla should have really included that little emergency exit from the front doors over into the rear. That's a small thing that I think that they should reconsider adding. But as you can see, opening up the door and getting back here, Tesla basically says, this is where I have the front seat to drive. There's around 35 inches of legroom back here, around 34 and a half to be exact. You can see the legroom space here is nice because the floor is completely flat. So the middle passenger basically is gonna have some decent space as well. And then with these sports seats, you can see they are definitely sculpted. What you do lose, however, is the seat back storage pocket. I am missing that because, again, this car already lacks a little bit of storage as it is, especially if you guys are coming from a Model Y. And then you can see all Tesla Model 3s now come with this nice 8-inch touchscreen for the rear passengers. The cool thing about this touchscreen, however, is it actually has its own Bluetooth enabled into this. So if you want, you can pair a Bluetooth device to just this system here, where you can stream your music, you can stream videos, you can see you can also play video games back here via an actual separate controller that's Wi-Fi enabled. You can pull up, YouTube and movies, Hulu's, Netflix and stuff like that. You can access your music as well. You can access the seat controls where you can see, turn on the heated seat. Although the middle seat, however, is not heated over here. I feel like the old one did have a heated middle seat, so they may have taken that away. Access the climate control here. This screen is a nice size as well, and I love the fact that it's standard even on the base version. You can see your vents are here, where you can adjust the proximity of the air vents. You have 2 USB-C charging ports there if you want to actually connect your phone, which is nice. You can see there's also an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. The fake leather material also feels really plush. The seats are comfortable and supportive. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see at 5'7", I have a good amount of headroom space, but again, I do wish this was a little dark tinted because on this hot day, the sun is baking my head, especially I have black hair, and I really would have preferred to have some kind of sunshade here. In the past, I would have said no, but now I guess I think that Tesla should at least give you that option. Again, this sunroof or this glass roof doesn't open up to vent air, but overall the backseat area certainly is going to be good for average sized adults. If you want to put child seats back here, you can, but just know that the Model Y offers around 5 more inches of additional rear legroom. So the Tesla Model 3 really did cause a huge shakeup when Tesla first introduced this vehicle way back in 2017. So it is my pleasure to finally be able to show you guys a review on the heavily revised Model 3 Highland. And I have to also thank, of course, Rob, my editor, who just recently took delivery of this vehicle. And I have to say, he picked a really great spec. I mean, this car to me just feels very dear to my heart because I was one of the first to take delivery of a Model 3 performance when this car first came out back in 2018. Mine was blue with the white interior, so this thing basically fits me like a glove. So I'm really happy with the entire spec that Rob picked out. I think he picked out a car that looks fantastic, and I especially love the updates that Tesla made to the exterior styling. So the first thing I do want to test out, obviously, is with the increase in power that Tesla has given us. I mean, now we've got 510 horsepower. The old one, I believe, was around the 460 horsepower mark. So there's a pretty hefty increase. The company claims 0 to 60 now happens in 2.9 seconds with the 1 foot of rollout. The last time I tested a Model 3 Performance, it was a 2022 model, and I got 3.2 seconds, I believe. So let's go ahead and see what we can get. I also want to point out we're at around a 62% state of charge. We're in the insane drive mode as well for the acceleration, and let's just go ahead and floor it. Oh, tunnel vision. 2.9 seconds there, basically instantaneously without having to put it into some kind of crazy launch control. 2.9 seconds at 62% state of charge. Now, I don't believe Tesla's the battery pack really affects that. I mean, if it starts to fall below, like, obviously 10 or 15%, it's probably going to start affecting that. But that performance is absolutely insane. And in fact, I will be eventually driving this car and the Hyundai Ioniq 5N back to back, because now that Rob has this vehicle, we're going to be using it for a bunch of comparison tests, hopefully for the future. But that time is just so incredible. I mean, Tesla has always been overachievers in terms of acceleration with their EVs, so it doesn't surprise me at all. I want to try it here really quick this time. See here, we'll forward again. Oh, God. Oh, my stomach is in the back seat. 3.02 seconds there. So that's with it more slightly uphill. Still, 3.02 seconds. With a more uphill 2.9 without even trying. So this is the kind of car, just like the old Model 3 Performance, where you can pull up next to that C8 Corvette and you can smoke them at the light. You can pull up next to that Porsche 911. It depends on which 911, and you can smoke them at the light, because that is the beauty about the Model 3, is just how crazy quick it is, even on the lower trim models, but the performance delivers supercar levels of acceleration. And with the updates that Tesla has made, the company is also claiming much improved handling dynamics. Now, we have upgraded suspension, upgraded brakes, we have fatter tires. These are still at 20-inch wheels, but the rear tires are now at 275 width, so they're staggered. We have upgraded steering as well. Everything has just been upgraded, and what shocks me about the Model 3 is the fact that this vehicle feels a lot smaller and lighter than its weights would suggest. I mean, we're dealing with essentially with a compact to slightly more mid-size, premium electric sedan, a vehicle that weighs a little over 4,000 pounds. But this, to me, has the same, level of playfulness, of sportiness that I get from almost like something like a Porsche Taycan. It hides its weight really well. The steering is incredibly sharp, direct, quick in terms of responses. The suspension also stays nice and flat and neutral. the vehicle just wants to change direction so eagerly, and it's part of the reason why I love this vehicle. Like as a track car, it really will do, you know, wonders for you if you guys plan to take it to a track. There's even a track mode, which I won't be able to test out today, obviously. But what I do want to test out actually is what the acceleration is like in standard, because as you can see, there's chill, standard, and insane. The 2.9 seconds that I got earlier was in the insane mode, which is where you're going to unlock maximum performance in this vehicle. So I want to try it out in standard mode. First of all, in standard mode, leave it in this mode. It's still bloody fast. Switch it into chill mode. Definitely feels noticeably slower in chill mode. This is kind of where the mode you want to put it into, like if you're going to have your mother-in-law drive the car and she's not used to incredibly fast EVs. But standard mode is still crazy quick, and insane just makes the front lift up. Holy crap. That's just unbelievable. Now, there's nobody behind me. I just want to try a 0 to 60 in standard mode here and see if there's a difference. There will be. Fast, but definitely doesn't give you quite the full tunnel vision. 3.69 seconds there. So putting it into insane mode definitely makes it faster. And as you can see, it makes it around 0.7 or 0.8 seconds quicker. So almost a full second quicker when you're in the insane mode, which is just absolutely bonkers. Crazy, crazy fast. Now, the other thing I want to talk about are these new sport seats. I have to say, that was the one thing that I criticized about the pre-refreshed Model 3 performance, is the seats left a lot to be desired. Yes, they were comfortable on longer trips, but you definitely noticed that they didn't hold you in place, especially when you wanted to take it to an autocross or track driving. These new seats, I love them. They're very, very heavily bolstered. They're also still incredibly comfortable. I also love the fact that they're ventilated as well. Love the ventilation portion. That's finally something that Tesla, was listening to its customers and added that feature. And I also really appreciate the level of refinement this vehicle has. Not a single squeak and rattle in the 2 days that I was driving this car. And I took it on a 2-hour road trip back from DC up to Pennsylvania, where I live, versus where Rob lives, where I picked the car up. The steering also is, the wheel feels really nice in your hands. The one thing I don't love, however, are the buttons for the turn signals. So what I found is, I'm still kind of, muscle memory is telling me to kind of keep an eye, or use my finger here to adjust the turn, turn on the turn signal. There's a little divot here on the steering wheel where you basically just have to rest your thumb there and then push up to signal right, and then push down to signal left. So the turn signal works pretty well and intuitively once you get used to that. It's just, I just don't understand why Tesla felt the need to get rid of the stock. I mean, what was wrong with the stock? There's plenty to like about the stock. There was nothing wrong with it. So it's just something that I don't really think that it was necessary to reinvent the wheel. But hey, it's something that Tesla did. And I imagine that once you own this car, you'll probably just be able to get used to it pretty quick. I personally think that the old system was better, but what I also love about this car is just how quiet it is. Very smooth, very quiet, very little road noise, very little wind noise. Tesla's really done a wonderful job at just upping the refinement in this car, and I think that's what it needed. The ride quality also has gotten a little bit smoother and more comfortable as well. Let's try an acceleration here in chill mode. Definitely feels way slower in chill mode. Oh my God, this thing feels so slow in chill mode. 7 seconds, so 6.96 seconds in chill mode, 3.69 in standard mode, and then 2.9 in insane mode. So we'll get it out of chill. I just wanted to show you that for demonstration purposes. This thing is absolutely crazy, crazy quick. And I love that they actually make a difference between the different acceleration modes. So again, putting your grandma as a driver or in the car, or your mother-in-law driving it, go with the chill mode, but the standard mode should be fast enough for most people. Now, I mentioned the ride quality earlier. It's gotten a lot more, it's still firm, but it's also, I think the rebound controls has gotten a lot better. I just had to do that. Couldn't help myself. And then in terms of the driver assistance tech, Tesla, of course, is all about their full self-driving capability. Now, Rob did not tick the option for the $8,000 for the full self-driving capability, but he does have it activated for a month trial, and I had a chance to drive it out on the highway. So what I can tell you is Tesla's system now allows you to do hands-off driving on certain interstates. Now, it's not full hands-off for an extended period of times like Super Cruise, but I was able to drive for about 5 to 10 minutes before the system was telling me to keep my hands back on the wheel, and it does a really, really good job of keeping you in the lane. It's pretty much comparable to the last Cadillac with their latest Super Cruise that I tested. It also will execute lane changes when I signal. It'll also, suggest lane changes as well. It'll also navigate on autopilot, so if you have that feature turned on, it'll actually change lanes depending on when the exit's coming up. So that all is great, but I just don't think Tesla should be charging $8,000 for it. I think that's too crazy. Just pay a subscription service at some point if you need the technology. And then let's go ahead and talk about the range. Now, this vehicle is rated up to 303 miles of range. And on a full charge at 100%, it was showing just around 300 miles of range. Now, I had a chance to drive this vehicle on that road trip, like I mentioned, from DC to Pennsylvania, and in reality, in my actual testing for that one drive, I would estimate this car would probably do around 270 miles of range, real world range on a full charge. That's with it, the temperatures being in the upper 90-degree Fahrenheit, which is not bad. It's certainly obviously pretty much what I expected it to be. I mean, the Model 3, you can get it up to as much as 341 miles of range, which is still very much near the top of the class, but the performance is gonna come with some compromises, but I think that number should be good enough for most people. Don't forget, Tesla also has access to their many thousands of superchargers where it can accept up to 250 kilowatts. So road trips are certainly no problem with Teslas. That's always been the case. But overall, and from a driving perspective, this vehicle feels even closer to, an electric BMW M3 that's from, an American car company. The ride quality is good, the seats are comfortable, the tech is amazing. I love the tech in this car. And that's precisely why I think the Model 3 is still the EV to get. This is, one of the few electric sports sedans out there that isn't gonna break the bank, offers an incredible amount of range and technology, and is also crazy quick to where you can literally embarrass those supercars that pull up next to you at the light. Now, I didn't want to end the driving scene without showing you guys a quick clip of what the car's full self-driving capability is like when the system is turned on. But the first thing I want to get to really quick, we are at a full charge right now. So I want to see if the 0 to 60 time is actually a little faster versus when I tested it yesterday when it had 63% state of charge. Ooh. Oh my God. And the time we got is 2.9 seconds again. So as you can see, even when you have a 63% state of charge, this thing is still absolutely bonkers fast. But obviously, I talked about 0 to 60 times yesterday, so I want to talk about the full self-driving. First of all, I forgot to mention yesterday as well, this car has adaptive dampers. So we had it in sport all day yesterday. I'm going to switch the dampers over to standard, which gives us a more comfort-oriented setting. I'll also switch the steering weight to light, and let's go ahead and activate the full self-driving. So to do that, you basically just tap that little button here, and then it also activates the full screen visualization here, which I have that set to turn on. And you can see Tesla's full self-driving now allows for actual hands-off capability, which is great. There's also a new blind spot indicator there, a red light that tells you what's there. And if I want, I can also signal to the left here, and it will initiate a lane change and actually keep me centered in the lane. It even shows me a really cool blind view camera, which I love. And if I want to do the same thing again, I can basically just tap that button. You can see here, it initiates the lane change. It takes a look to see if there's anybody there first before it actually changes over, and it keeps me centered in the lane. This works pretty much as well as Cadillac's Super Cruise or GM Super Cruise. And it also has the navigation-aware cruise control as well. But overall, if you guys are looking for hands-free driving, this is definitely an improvement over Tesla's earlier system. However, it doesn't allow for full hands-off driving for extended ranges. It allows you for about 10 to 15 minutes before the system tells me to put my hands back on the wheel to let me know that I'm paying attention. That camera also watches my face to make sure that I'm paying attention. But you can see with the full self-driving visualization here, it literally scans the road with upgraded cameras to let you know of any pedestrians, any traffic cones, any construction. It knows all of that. And it kind of gives you a better representation of, that this car is capable of full self-driving. I mean, obviously it's not full hands-free. It tells you literally in the system that it's supervised hands-free. But what I also notice here really quickly, hitting these bumps, this car's ride quality has improved dramatically, and with it in standard mode and the light steering, this is really where the car is going to feel like you can easily daily drive it when you feel like you want to go more comfort oriented, but then it allows you the ability to go right here into the dynamics portion and then change it back into the stiff settings. So that level of customization has never been here on the Model 3 Performance before, and I'm really happy to see Tesla making that change because I think it's going to really make a big difference, especially when you use this car as your only vehicle in a day-to-day basis. So when I first started off this review, I mentioned that the Model 3 is the most successful selling EV globally, and there was a point in time where Tesla actually managed to sell nearly 250,000 Model 3s in the US annually. That was back in 2022. Back in 2023, Tesla only did around 60,000 Model 3s, and that's because everybody started buying the Model Y. Tesla did around 385,000 Model Ys. So again, Tesla proved that there is a huge market for a vehicle like this as long as you offered it with that winning combination. I have to say, after spending a couple of days with Rob's brand new Model 3 Performance, I am absolutely in love with this car. I mean, when I first had my vehicle back in 2018, it really just proved to me that EVs had a place in the marketplace, because this car to me is an Enthusiast branded EV. Even though it doesn't quite have the sounds and visceral experience, what Tesla has perfected here is the handling, the ride quality, the performance. As you guys saw, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds is absolutely insane. If you want something that's going to go as fast as this, you're going to have to spend roughly double, maybe triple the money, because remember, the last EV that I tested that was sub 3 seconds was the Audi e-tron GT RS, which was around $180,000 to $150,000. So again, there's a ton of bang for your buck. In terms of the real world range, in this sweltering heat, I was averaging around 270-ish miles of range, which I actually think is good. I'm gonna probably have to give credit to the new, more efficient aerodynamics of this car, the new motors, of course, and the new battery pack that they introduced a couple of years ago. The tech in this vehicle also is still the best in the industry. Remember, Tesla is a software company, and it really shows that they know what they're doing in terms of the tech, in terms of the interface, in terms of your phone integration, of course, and they can do it all without giving you Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and that's because the native system works extremely well. The seats are also really comfortable. I love the new sports seats. The back seat is getting a little bit small. Same with the storage space in this car. Again, there's a reason why the Model Y exists. So I am looking forward to Tesla eventually adding the Highland refresh updates to the Model Y, which we should be seeing hopefully in the next year or maybe less than a year. In terms of pricing, this is where the Model 3 also still has a ton of positives for it, because if you want to get your hands on this vehicle, you can go ahead and go to Tesla's website, order a base standard range plus model, and they start at $38,990. Just under $40,000 makes this vehicle a steal. Really, the only thing that's cheaper in this segment is the Hyundai Ioniq 6. However, the Hyundai is going to have considerably less power and less range, and it's not going to have quite the tech. The Hyundai's only around $1,500 less expensive. Now, if you guys want to go for all-wheel drive, that'll cost you at least $8,500. You're looking at around $47,500 for the dual motor version. The performance version that you're seeing here stickers for $54,000, just under 55 grand, which also manages to sneak it under the $55,000 price cap if you guys are looking to get the $7,500 federal tax credit. Now, of course, this model that I'm showing you here that Rob bought is painted in the pearl white color with the black and white interior. That's an extra charge. So as tested, this model here is just over $57,000, which technically doesn't allow it to qualify for the tax credit, but you kind of can go around that if you lease the vehicle, which is exactly what Rob did. But in reality, there's a reason why the Model 3 continues to be a very popular vehicle, because it's just so incredibly well-rounded. And of course, with the updates that Tesla has made, this is still one of the best value for dollar here, especially when you're looking at performance, technology, and of course, range. With all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Tesla Model 3 Performance. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.